Hey everybody, welcome back to the homestead. Well, today I'm going to show you one of my favorite summertime recipes to make outside in my Dutch oven. Sarah's been inside canning all day. We've had a huge harvest of green beans and tomatoes that she's had to spend the entire day processing in the house. So instead of heating the house up even more because it was in the 90s today, we've decided to make dinner outside. So I'm going to show you first of all, one of my favorite recipes to make in my Dutch oven, which are some fantastic barbecue beans. And then we're also going to have some quail that I processed yesterday to go along with it. We're going to grill that up and it's going to be awesome. So we're going to show you this and show you exactly how we make it.
Also, while things are cooking, we're going to take you around the homestead and give you a couple updates on things that we haven't shown you recently. We've gotten some special requests to see some things around the homestead, so look forward to that as well.
Let's get started on making these beans. Like I said, this is my favorite recipe. Whenever we have a cookout, especially when we're going to have friends or family over, this is something that I make just about every single time. It's very versatile. Today we're going to make just kind of the bare bones of this recipe, but I'll tell you other things that you can add in to make it even better. So starting last night, we got some organic pinto beans and black beans soaking. We buy our beans in bulk from Azure Standard. We buy them dry and then we soak them as we need them, or a lot of times Sarah will can them ahead of time so that we can just open them up. For this recipe, I prefer to start with dry beans because they stay a little bit firmer. And when you're baking them in the Dutch oven, they just seem to stay together better. If you start with canned beans, they seem to kind of fall apart a little bit more. It's not a big deal. They taste great either way. If all you have is canned beans from the store, that's absolutely fine. Just rinse them. For this recipe, I started with 1 pound of dry beans. It would be about the equivalent of 3 cans of beans. I'm using pinto and black beans, but if you're using beans from the store, you could use the white beans, the Great Northern beans, black beans, pinto beans, whatever your favorite type of beans are.
So like Kevin said, last night I started getting these beans ready for him. Just want to tell you just real quickly what I did. I soaked these in, well, first of all, I picked through and made sure that there weren't any stones. I rinsed them a couple times really well, and I soaked them overnight. Then this morning, I rinsed them again, put in fresh water, and then I cooked them on the stovetop for about 30 minutes until they are both just soft, but not too soft that they fall apart in the cooking process and just turn into mush.
All right, so let's get started putting all of this together. I already have the beans here in the bowl. This is the bowl we're going to mix everything up in. The first thing that we're going to use is some organic ketchup. We've run out of homemade ketchup, so right now we're using store-bought ketchup, but it is organic. We find that that is very important. So we're going to start with 1 cup of ketchup. And I will leave the recipe below the video so that you guys can have it. We're also going to use half a cup of brown sugar. We use cane sugar here on the homestead so that we make sure that it's non-GMO. I've also pan-fried 1 onion from our garden. So one, I'd say medium-sized onion, and just pan-fry it until it's good and done and a little bit crispy. And then 1.5 tablespoons of mustard, organic mustard.
Just yellow mustard.
Yellow mustard. And that's all there is in these beans. We're going to just mix this up until everything is mixed up really, really well. So now that we have that all mixed up, it's ready to go into the Dutch oven. Now tonight, because we're grilling the quail along with it, that's all I'm going to add. But a lot of times, if we're not going to make something along with it, I'd like to make this into a meal all by itself. In that case, I'll add some bacon, some kielbasa, or whatever type of sausage you like. Mix that right in and bake it along with it, and it'll be absolutely perfect. It'll make a meal all by itself. You don't need to make anything along with it. But tonight we're going to make the beans, and then we're going to grill the quail. The first thing I'm going to do is use some home rendered lard. If you haven't seen the video that Sarah did about rendering lard from the pigs that we raised last year, go ahead and look at that video. If you don't know the health differences between home rendered lard and store-bought lard, I highly recommend that you do some research about that. Home rendered lard is a completely different thing than store-bought lard. When they make the store-bought lard shelf stable, it goes through some changes that aren't very good for you, but home rendered lard is actually excellent for you. So we're going to take the lard and we're going to put that down into the bottom of the Dutch oven. And I'm going to just use my spatula to kind of spread that around a little bit in the Dutch oven. Now my Dutch oven is already pretty well seasoned because I use it a lot, but I still like to always add a little bit extra lard. It adds some great flavor, and it also just adds, you know, a little bit extra coating on the Dutch oven as we're cooking everything. And now we're just going to put the beans down inside on top of the lard, and then I just kind of even them out inside of the Dutch oven. Now this is what's considered a camp Dutch oven. It has legs on the bottom, and that's so that we can put some coals underneath it. I highly recommend everybody who's interested in cooking outside owns one of these. This is a 10-inch Dutch oven. You can get different sizes, but the 10-inch seems to be good for our family, and I use it all the time. Let's take this over to the fire pit and we'll put the coals, get it going. So for this recipe, we want to bake these at about 350 degrees. We're going to use some standard charcoal briquettes. You can use wood coals as well. I just find that the charcoal briquettes are a little bit easier to control because they're a standard size. For 350 degrees on a 10-inch Dutch oven, you're going to use 21 coals, and you're going to put 7 coals on the bottom and 14 coals on top. I'll leave a link as well below this video to a chart that shows you the different size Dutch ovens that you can get and how many coals you need to make certain temperatures. It's very handy. So we're going to put 7 coals down here on the bottom. And then we're going to put our Dutch oven on top. And then the rest of our coals are going to go right on the top. Now these camp Dutch ovens also come with a special lid that holds the coals right on the top of them. So we're going to put all the coals around the edge of the Dutch oven, and we're going to get everything inside cooking really well. Now that the coals are on, there's not a whole lot to do. This is going to cook for about an hour or however long the coals last. They should last about an hour. I'm going to come back in about 15 or 20 minutes and look inside and probably stir things up, and then we'll also we'll do that a couple times until they're done. You can't really overcook them because the beans are already done. You can't really undercook them either. It just kind of goes by preference as to what you want. I prefer them to turn out a little bit more on the dry side instead of a lot of sauce, but some people prefer their baked beans to have more sauce, so you would just stop them a little bit earlier. So we're going to go give you guys some updates of some things around the homestead while these are cooking, and then we'll come back and check on them.
Well, let's start our update with the sunflowers. You guys can see that the sunflowers have grown quite a bit and they are starting to bloom. They're beautiful. The flowers themselves are smaller than we thought they would be, but they're just beautiful. They're also a little shorter than we thought it would be, but you know, we've never grown this kind before. These are black oil sunflower seeds. This year was just an experiment to see how they would grow, how tall, how big, how well they would grow right here in the front yard. We had some challenges this year with these sunflowers. We planted late because Kevin's tiller broke. We didn't install any type of watering system, so we had to water by hand and with a sprinkler when they needed it, so they probably didn't get as much water as they should have, and maybe those things contributed to their height and to their size. We are definitely gonna try this again next year. We're excited to grow the black oil sunflower seeds. Our hope is that we can grow enough that in the future we can press the seeds and extract the oil so that we can replace sunflower seed oil. We're happy with the way this went this year. It was just an experiment and we did very little planning and just kind of threw some seeds out here. So next year we're hoping it'll be a little more intentional and we'll have even better results.
So the next update that we have for you guys is the plants that we're growing this year for Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. For those of you who haven't been following us all along, this year we were picked as a grower for Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. That means that we are growing plants specifically to save the seeds so that they can use those seeds next year to sell to customers through their seed catalog. We were picked for 2 different things this year. The first one is eggplant. We're growing a Japanese eggplant for them this year called Matoyo eggplant. And so far, I think it's going really, really well. We had a crazy start to the spring here in the Missouri Ozarks. It was so wet that we were about a month behind putting everything in our garden. Even our personal garden, not just the things that we're growing for Baker Creek. Our tomatoes, our peppers, our cucumbers, everything are about a month behind what they normally are. But I think everything is starting to catch up. And you can see that on these eggplant that we're growing. They are absolutely beautiful. Look how big these eggplants are. I'm really excited because I think that we're going to get a lot of seeds out of these. I don't know what kind of dent that will make for Baker Creek. I'm sure being such a small grower, it'll just get kind of put in with everybody else's. But we're excited. For us, this is a big deal. It may not be for them, but for us, this certainly is. I have to say that in the past, we've tried eggplant here on the homestead. Now, none of us really like eggplant, so we never tried really, really hard. But this year, because of growing them for Baker Creek, we tried extra hard, and I think that they're doing really well. We started these in the greenhouse this spring. We got them out to the garden. We had a little bit of a problem early on with flea beetles, which are a big problem here in the Ozarks. We dusted them heavily with diatomaceous earth, which seemed to take care of that problem. And from there on out, they've been doing really well. So we're excited. They have a ways to go before we can harvest them for seed. If we were to harvest them to eat, we'd be just about there. But we need to let them ripen a little bit more before we can harvest them for seed. But I think we're going to do pretty well.
The other thing that we're growing for Baker Creek are some tomatoes. The variety is called Dad's Sunset tomatoes, and they're an orange tomato. You can see behind me that the plants are doing pretty well, and we've got some green tomatoes growing. We don't have any big tomatoes yet. I think they're still coming. These plants are doing so well, and we are sure that we're going to have a great harvest for Baker Creek. In fact, these plants behind me over here are actually looking even more healthy than the tomato plants we have in our summer garden. They're separated. They're actually planted in our spring garden to keep them away from the other tomatoes, to make sure that there isn't any cross-pollination. These plants have no evidence of disease at this point. They're actually the healthiest looking plants that we have on the homestead. We're very excited for these guys to start getting big and ripening, and so we can save some seeds that we can give to them and share with anybody who's interested. So let's go back and check on the beans, and then we have one more update for you.
They smell so great. I haven't even taken the lid off yet, and I can tell you I could smell them from probably 20 feet away. If you're going to get one of these camp Dutch ovens, I recommend that you also get one of these lifters. They come in so handy. You just put it on the lid, and that way you can use it to lift the lid off of whatever you're cooking. And just look how amazing those beans are looking. All of that stuff that we put on, the ketchup and the brown sugar and the mustard, is starting to really just cook in there, get into the beans, and man, they look so great. So we're gonna put the lid back on. We don't want to leave it off too long. We're just gonna turn it a little bit so that the coals move around. That way it will disperse the heat a little bit better. But we're gonna leave this. It's been about 30 minutes so far. We're gonna leave it for probably another 20 or so minutes, and then hopefully they'll be done. Soon we need to start putting the quail on the grill. I've got those coals started, and we're gonna cook those up, and it's just gonna be a great meal. So the last update we have for you guys today is our turkeys. Can you believe how fast they are growing? We have broad-breasted white turkeys, and we also have the blue slate heritage breed turkeys. Now I do have a little bit of bad news for you guys, but I want to be honest with you, and I want to give you a true picture of the homesteading life. One of the broad-breasted turkeys died this week. I'm not exactly sure. It was only about half the size of the other broad-breasted turkeys, so I'm not really sure what was going on with it. I kind of feel like it never fully developed. It just never thrived. The good news is that I feel like all of the broad-breasted white turkeys that we have left are males. In fact, you can see that they're starting to, portray those male habits. They're fluffing up, they're putting out their tail feathers. They're really starting to kind of strut their stuff as men, even though they're still pretty small. Now, the heritage breed that we're raising are the blue slates. The broad-breasted white turkeys we plan on butchering later this fall. They'll grow really fast. They're going to be in the freezer before Thanksgiving. But the blue slates are a heritage breed. They'll stay on the homestead as long-term residents. I can't yet tell how many males and females we have of those, but we're hoping we have at least 3 or 4 females and at least 1 or 2 males, because those we're hoping will give us babies down the road. So from here on out, we don't need to buy turkeys at a hatchery. We'll just be able to hatch our own. In fact, they are known as a breed that goes broody, which means that they'll sit on their own eggs and hatch out their own young. So hopefully we won't have to do anything at all. They'll just hatch them out, and we'll be able to take advantage of that and raise them right here on the homestead. We raised a lot of turkeys when we lived in Arizona, but since we've been here in Missouri, we just haven't been ready for them. So we're really excited that this year we were set up, we're ready, and that we were able to add them to all of the animals that we have here. To me, turkeys are just a fun animal to have. I love listening to them. Wherever you are working on the homestead, you can hear them. They make really fun noises, and it's just a great thing to have. When we first started with these guys, we had them in our brooder barn, and we were, giving them a starter feed for turkeys. We've now moved them out to their big run area where they'll live. And one of our neighbors actually contacted us and let us know that they have this feeder behind us, and that if we wanted it, we could have it. So I went a while back and picked this feeder up. This feeder actually holds a couple 100 pounds of feed at a time. It's perfect for these turkeys, and I set it up out here. They're using it. It keeps their feed nice and dry, and I'm able to put a lot of feed out here at a time so that they never run out. So we're super thankful to have this feeder, and super thankful to have such great neighbors that would think of us, and when they know that we have something like these turkeys that need to be fed. All right, the coals are ready for the quail. I'm going to put them on the grill. Now, I can tell you that quail, because they're so lean and so small, they get done really fast. You don't need a lot of coals. In fact, you want to keep the temperature pretty low while you're grilling them. So I only use about half the amount of coals that I would use when I'm grilling burgers or pork chops or something like that. So we're just going to put these on. We're going to get these quail grilling. Now this right here is 4 quail. I had 4 extra males that I butchered yesterday. They've been in the refrigerator since that time. But you can see that this is a good amount of meat. In fact, for our family of 4, this is plenty of meat along with some side items. Quail are such lean animals that there's so much protein in their meat that it really fills you up faster than some other meats. So 4 is plenty for us. Sometimes we'll make 6, but today this is going to be just fine. Along with the beans that I'm making, everybody's going to have plenty to eat. So we're going to grill these until they are done, and we'll head over to eat. Well, the beans look like they're done. They smell awesome. I hope you guys can see just how fantastic they look. Like I said, I like baked beans with not a ton of sauce on them. I like them a little bit more on the dry side, and that's exactly how these turned out. Now, if you like them with more sauce, you can either start with a little extra sauce, add some more ketchup and some more mustard and more brown sugar, or you can just take them off of the heat a little bit sooner. But this is exactly how I like them. So we're going to use our lifter here to take them over to the table, and then we're going to get the quail off the grill. Well, the beans and the quail look fantastic. We're about to sit down to eat dinner. Now you may notice that there's only the 2 of us here tonight. The girls are not here. That's not because they're not really here. It's just that we can't have them on the video. Recently we did a video where Sarah and Samantha were canning things in the house, and we got kind of a warning from YouTube about having the kids in the video. Because YouTube is getting a lot of complaints about pedophiles on YouTube, they're starting to take channels who feature their children, and they're starting to remove all the comments from those videos. So because of that, they've kind of given us a warning that we should stop having the kids in the videos, or our channel may have all of our comments taken away. We don't want that to happen, so from here on out, until things kind of get settled with YouTube, we're not going to have the kids in the video anymore. We'll give you guys updates about how things are going with the kids. Grace is recovering well from her accident. School's about to be starting here soon, so we'll continue to tell you how the kids are doing. We're just not going to have them in the videos until YouTube kind of figures out what to do about the situation with comments.
So you guys, thank you so much for joining us today while we make dinner, and I hope you enjoy the recipe, and I hope that you're encouraged about maybe trying to raise quail for your family. It's a fantastic meat. I hope that you also feel well informed now about some of the things that we haven't talked with you about in a while, the sunflowers, the things that we're growing for Baker Creek, and the turkeys. If you're enjoying our channel, we'd love for you to subscribe, and we would also love for you to share this and share our channel with people who you think might enjoy it. And until next time, thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.